How does the HVM handle edge cases like Bitcoin reorgs when querying UTXOs or transaction proofs in real-time smart contracts, and what optimizations are planned to reduce gas costs for these operations?
Good question. So Bitcoin reorgs, basically the way that HVM works is it lags behind the current Bitcoin tip. Right now that setting is set to 2 blocks. There's actually some security reasons for doing that besides just making sure DApps don't confirm Bitcoin transactions that could get reorged. It's actually important to ensure that nobody can basically withhold a privately mined Bitcoin block, relay that to Hemi, especially once we decentralize the sequencer. If the sequencer were to also be a Bitcoin miner who is maliciously withholding blocks to try to mess with Hemi's system by getting it to try to process a state transition it doesn't have the data for. So at a minimum, DApps see a state of Bitcoin that's 2 blocks behind the current Bitcoin consensus tip. For different DApps, though, they do need to take into account how to manage confirmations of Bitcoin transactions based on their risk profile. So if they're doing something that's very low risk, like just paying out a Bitcoin miner reward for including a transaction that somebody subsidized in an MUV marketplace, that could work very securely with 2 Bitcoin confirmations. The worst case is that transaction gets reverted and the miner got a reward for putting the transaction and the subsidy goes away. Whereas for stuff like the Bitcoin tunnel, or if you were building a lending protocol or whatever, in those instances, you want to wait for additional confirmations in your DApp. So a lot of people are probably familiar with the way that Ethereum L2s usually work, which is if the Ethereum chain reorgs, then the L2 reorgs. But because we're combining multiple different chains together, Bitcoin and Ethereum, we don't do that on the Bitcoin side. So applications need to be aware of Bitcoin confirmations and only take actions on the DApp layer once a certain action on Bitcoin has reached sufficient confirmations that match the risk profile of their DApp.